Uh-oh, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody? Julie, hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me. Mike. What day is it, Mike?
You magnificent bastard, I read your book.
I drink your milkshake.
How dare you?
I call that bold talk for a one-eyed fat man.
Fill your hand, you son of a bitch.
Captain.
Captain.
No, not yet. Don't pass out on me yet. Of course you realize this means war.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Ladies and gentlemen, this might be a little bit of a different show tonight. At this point, this has been a very bad day for DZ. Let me tell you a story about a man named Jed. Poor mountaineer barely kept his family fed. They said one day he was shooting at some food, and up from the ground come a bubbling crude. Oil, that is. Black gold. Texas tea. Well, it happens to be 3 minutes after 8 p.m. on the left coast. That means it's 11:03 on the East Coast. And at this point, because of the kind of day that it's been, my guest may not... Oh, wait. There she is, I believe. Anyway, so my first hour is saved. In any event, I'll get into what happened, and I'll tell you a little bit about what occurred today. I completely blitzed my intro. I didn't even get to do my intro, but that's okay. Because, let's put it this way. The air conditioning in the studio works. That should tell you a little something about what doesn't work. In any event, we've got a great show. KARI Baxter Donovan, BZZCPG, the East Coast political goddess, is here for the first hour. In the second hour, I'm not starting Facebook, because I can guarantee you right now, if I were to run this show on Facebook, I'd be suspended again, and Facebook would take the entire show down. So well, first, because we haven't spoken to her in quite some time, first, everyone say hello to KARI Baxter Donovan. KARI.
Hello.
There you go. Anyway, you haven't been here for a while. Almost.
No, it's been a long time.
About 6 months. And gee,
wow.
Willikers, in those few 6 months, not much has happened. Really, when you think about it.
How did we not talk for 6 months with everything going on? That's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. Well, KARI Baxter, here, folks, here's what's going to happen tonight. We'll talk to KARI Baxter Donovan in the first hour. I took a chance. I didn't start. So if you go to or you're listening somewhere and you're trying to figure out to yourself, why can't I get on Facebook streaming? It's because I'm not going to give Facebook another opportunity to suspend me for another month. I'm going to eventually leave Facebook. I just don't know where or when. I'm taking a little bit of a wee chance and going with YouTube, so that if you guys go to shrmedia.com, with the way the website is configured, you should be able to listen to me on Spreaker, and right above that, you should be able to watch the show on YouTube. My guess would be YouTube is going to end up removing this show. So if you're watching live on YouTube, okay, you'll be able to see and hear it live. But if you want to watch the show, my guess would be, in retrospect, YouTube is going to pull it down. I'll tell you about that in just a bit. The most compelling issue today is I hope I can stay up for 2 hours. The reason I say that is it was 104 degrees today in Sacramento. KARI, Baxter, Donovan, it's 11:06 on the East Coast where you are in the Carolinas. So about what temperature is it right where you are?
Well, I just got back from walking my little puppy, and I'm going to guess that it's about 75.
Okay.
It cooled down. We had a nice cool breeze. It was pleasant to be walking.
Right. Cool breeze. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Let's see. 104 today, 108 tomorrow, 108 Saturday, 108 Sunday, 109 Monday, and 111 Tuesday.
Oh, no. That makes my stomach hurt. No, that's not good.
So, knowing this is coming, KARI, folks, what do you think happened today
Your
at
air conditioning went out.
BZ's wife's house in Sacramento? Now, I live way up the hills in the Sierra Nevada mountains, but I don't broadcast from there. I have to come down here to broadcast because this is where the studio is located.
Yeah. There's no air conditioning, is there?
There's no air conditioning, KARI. So
I can tell by the tone of your voice. You have no air conditioning.
So
friend,
when I left the house early for the studio, it was only 90 degrees in the house. Well, in my 7th decade, folks, BZ doesn't do heat as well as he used to. But I stepped into the sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent SHR Media air conditioning tonight. And I don't know what I don't know what it does with you, KARI, but with me, the heat knocks me out, and I'm tired. Yeah. I'm drained. I was thinking, oh my God, I hope I can make the 2 hours on the doggone show tonight, because for me, anyway, it kicks my butt. And darn me for not acknowledging in chat. Sergeant Booker is in chat, Alaskan is in chat, and Jack Alexander is in chat. Now, I will tell you something that you, because we haven't spoken in some time. I had some people do my analytics. And up until recently, when I got suspended for a month by Facebook, I was getting anywhere. So one of the reasons I wanted to bring you back is because since the last time we've spoken, like the author that I'm going to have on next Tuesday, this will be the same for him, Terrence McCauley. My show's expanded now. I'll get anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 to 10,000 people listening per show.
That's awesome.
I've had a guy that is doing analytics and lumping everything together. Then he said, yeah, your analytics are really expanding and Facebook is throttling the holy crap out of you.
Right.
So I went in the span of 1 month from Facebook, getting a couple of thousand hits through Facebook, to last Tuesday's show, 20. 30, 40. I don't believe that crap for a second. Not now. So, as I said last Tuesday night, for all the people that are new listeners or all the people that have been coming back so loyally for quite some time, I thank you, each and every one, because the show has literally gone kaboom. Oh, at Jack Alexander
awesome.
in chat says, so I better not mention it's only 56 degrees here.
Where is he? Poland or something? Where is it 56 degrees?
No, he's in Australia right now, and it's
Australia.
winter. It's winter in Australia.
See,
To which
winter, Poland, I don't know.
Yeah, to which I say, Jack Alexander, comma, you bastard. Thanks for reminding me.
Oh.
Really appreciate that.
Poor thing. My heart is breaking right now. But,
my heart is squozing too, darn it.
I know, I'm so sorry. Gee, that stinks. But,
Yes.
you know, like I have always told you since the first time we met,
Okay.
I just knew you were a rock star. So here, I'm right. And I love it because I'm right about that. And then I remembered something today since, I don't know, it was like 2 years ago maybe. We had a conversation about Steve Bannon. And I said, I'm going to tell you something. Steve Bannon, watch for him. You're going to hear more from him. And I was thinking today of busting you on Twitter that I think you owe me like a big, expensive bottle of bourbon over that or something. But I didn't. I saved it for the show. But that's 2 times that I'm right now. 1, that you're a rock star, and 2, that Steve Bannon never really went anywhere, and he's a rock star too. So I know rock stars. I know from rock stars. And I think I get a bottle of bourbon out of it.
You probably should.
Right.
And number 2,
Right.
I seem to recall him being around in the past month or so. Now,
No, I think he never went anywhere, but we were having a conversation, and you called me to the mat.
I did.
You
Okay,
told me
guilty.
absolutely I was
Guilty.
wrong. Right. So this, long history that you and I have, which your new listeners will not even know about, but this long history that you and I have of you being wrong and me being right, which is
okay.
very rare for
All
you,
right.
I'm sure.
I have to give that a... Okay, you deserve it. Good.
All right,
Lord.
thank you. But I have missed you, and I was thinking of you, and I'm so glad. I am so glad to be chatting with you tonight, and I'm glad to hear of your exploding new show now.
Well, thank you.
Your new platform.
Thank you very much. I still don't know where the hell I'm going to go. I'm going to use, basically as far as I can, I'm going to use Facebook like a bad Kotex and then end up throwing it away at some time because they've used me, and so I'll use them as much as I can. My int folks, just to let you know, I am active as fuck, or AAF, on Twitter at BZEP, at BZEP. Now, from now on, guaranteed, I am not going to be very damn active on Facebook. The only reason that I'm still going to be on Facebook is for the live streaming in certain shows of this show. Just tonight, however, I've decided that I am not going to live stream this show because I've got about 40 minutes next hour of a Hollywood insider essentially telling you, a producer, a director who's made any number of movies that I guarantee you have heard of, is saying he's making a massive revelation about what's going on in Hollywood with pedophilia. There's so many things to talk about, KARI Baxter Donovan, but one of the things that I've done since maybe about a month ago, maybe about three weeks now, is I have a new department. A new, like I you know me, I've had always this.
This is an SHR Media Network special report.
Okay, and I use that.
That's awesome. I love it.
I have special reports from time to time, and then I always have my happy story section.
Yes.
It's time for happy stories and good times.
And then I'll tell a happy story. I've got some tonight, if I have time for them tonight. But I also have this new section, which I'm going to do, because it won't take me more than about 30 seconds, KARI Baxter Donovan. So this is new for you. This is the first time you will have ever heard this, but I've done it for about 4 times now, and it's...
The bloviating Zeppelin's HeyJackass.com Chicago Death Toll Update. Courtesy of Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
Hey kids, let's go to HeyJackass.com, illustrating Chicago values. August to date, people shot and killed, 20. Shot and wounded, 126. Total shot, 146. Total homicides, August to date, 21. Come on, Chicago, you're letting me down. Week in progress, August 9th to August 15th, shot and killed, 4. Shot and wounded, 35. Total shot, 39. Total homicides, 5. You're kind of letting me down here. This is the good one, though. In Chicago, illustrating Chicago values. Shot and killed 429. Shot and wounded 2,032. Woohoo! Total shot 2,461. Total homicides in Chicago year to date 470. Yay! Okay, that's enough for the HeyJackass.com death toll, courtesy of Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
Now, I don't think, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but I don't think that there's anybody who could make that story funny, and you just did.
Well, it's because
exploding.
you have to give it a little bit of vim and vigor, and because as far as she's concerned, these are figures to be proud of. She's not doing a damn fucking thing to stop them, so that means to me, I speak leftist. I interpret. I'm a translator for leftists. I've had that's another thing. I've had leftist dickweed trolls all day on Twitter. Yeah, don't you love those? In any event.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm completely shadow banned. I remember when you asked me, what is shadow banned? And I said, I explained it. I've been shadow banned for a long time. So I don't even get leftist trolls. I get, 1 or 2 a month.
Oh,
I don't.
Carrie,
they don't even see me.
Carrie Baxter Donovan, you used to have biblical troll wars.
Well, right. I used to have biblical troll wars. And then I remember I came on your show. And I talked about how I had gotten shadow banned, and it was because I called Rick Wilson, I called him a communist. Like, I don't know, was that 2016? And he started stalking me from like 100 different accounts, and so, I don't know, I'm so bad. I egged him on. I made him cry. I made him admit that I just was pissing him off because I knew it was him, and I was doing all the things that he didn't anticipate, which threw him off his game. He got pissed off. The next thing I know, I was shadow banned. And I'm like, I know it was Rick Wilson who did it. And I said it to him numbers of times. Ha ha, he laughed one time. So I don't even get any epic troll wars to entertain me.
Oh.
It's so lonely over here in North Carolina in my air conditioning. And yeah, it's terrible. I don't even know.
Okay. I'm going to have to reveal my ignorance right now, Carrie Baxter Donovan. By the way,
okay, that's all right.
Folks,
you were fun. You can do it.
If you didn't know, I have called Carrie Baxter Donovan my ECPG since carry the 2, divide by 3, 2017. Yep. Since 2017. Yep. And ECPG means she is my East Coast political goddess. Well, while you're on the phone, Carrie Baxter Donovan, I have to ask you this.
Okay.
Sean, I believe, is going to be here November 3rd. I know I'm going to be here November 3rd. We'd like to do at SHR what we've done before is call the SHR folks and get them to weigh in on what's happening in their state. You're in North Carolina. If I'm not mistaken. So
we did that last time.
Right, exactly. So I'm soliciting you again to weigh in and let us know with what's happening on the East Coast in North Carolina. We had Melanie Collette, she's in New Jersey. We had Jeff Dunitz, he's in New York. So we've got 3 people covering the East Coast. And you know me and Sean, we'll give you the best in buttery political goodness that can possibly be imagined on November 3rd. However,
but I'm going to have to think of something. Sean's going to have to do something for me this time because. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to.
I already owe you whiskey. Okay, stop right there.
Right.
All right.
I got to get something from Sean now too.
Okay.
So I got whiskey from you. I'm going to get something.
Okay, off the air, I'll have to send you a message or a text and say, okay, What's your favorite? What's your address? I'm not a Welcher. I will be good for my word.
No way, I want to drink it with you. What are you talking about?
I'll get you what you want, because I admit when I'm wrong. I really will. Jack
We don't have
Alexander.
to revisit the whole conversation. We just can say that I was absolutely right.
Okay,
You know,
all right.
that was good. That's good.
I admit it. I admit it.
Oh.
Jack
Well,
Alexander in chat says I'm shadow banned too.
Yeah.
Okay, now
It's kind of a badge of honor.
you are still on Twitter, because
am.
you have a pinned tweet. Okay, that's why it's July 2nd. But you still, I'm looking at
No,
your
I'm still there. I'm
page.
still on Twitter. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm still active.
Your last
And the
post was 5 hours, so you're still active on Twitter. If people want to find out where you are or watch and see what you're writing about on Twitter, give folks your Twitter handle, if you would, please.
So my Twitter handle is at Saorsa, SAORSA 1776.
Okay.
And I'm writing at a number of different sites now. So I put some of my articles up on my Twitter when I think of it, and I'm also deconstructing leftist manuals. I've thought of you so many times.
I saw that.
That's the new thing I'm doing. Yeah, it's actually gotten picked up. I'm kind of excited about this because it's actually getting picked up by some mainstream media types who are like, what? What are you talking about? We can talk about that if you want to. But that, and I'm on Facebook at KARI Baxter Donovan.
Okay.
And I'm on Parler and Spreely and Gab and same name.
Yeah.
KARI Baxter Donovan.
Let me ask you a question about Parler, because you know me.
Or Parley or whatever. Yeah.
I make no bones about the fact that I am a techno-Luddite. The only person that's stupider in terms of technology is Sackheads Clint, and I can say it because he's not in here. So I can say it behind. He's half my damn age. He's half my age, and he's a moron when it comes to watch.
Well,
he's listening to the show
busy.
right now.
He's busy. Yeah, he's just busy. He's just busy.
He shouldn't be a moron, but he really is. In any event, do you find Parler is kind of it's not intuitive to me. I don't think I have this thing.
No, I can't really. I'll tell you, I'm set up there, but I don't go there, and I don't really know how to do it.
I know. It's not nearly as like Gab. Boom! I instantly knew how to make Gab go. I went to MeWe.com.
You're better than me.
Which
I'm at MeWe.
Sounds like a urinal, and I can figure out how to make that go. And then there was Megabook.
But no.
And I figured out how to do that. But Parlay or Parler or whatever it is, dude, you are confusing the hell out of me. So that's why and I went and got their app. So I thought, okay, well, I can start being a posting mother on Parler until I realize that I can't figure that crap out either.
No, they're all a little bit confusing. That's the problem. That's the problem with Facebook and Twitter is they're so easy. But man, are they really hammering down on content?
God.
And
yes.
the thing is, if you can figure out how to get around it, it's so sweet. You can just get in the public stream and you can just surf it and you just get your data out there and you can just be like, the king of content on Twitter and Facebook, but you are going to have to figure out how to get around them. All the other sites seem to have some sort of, I don't know, glitch. They're bad. I don't enjoy any of them. So,
I kind of sort of used to, but the funny thing is that, and I'm still looking for you had a post that I'm not finding right now, where it illustrated.
Was I talking about Kamala's boobs?
No,
I've been doing that lately.
No, you were talking about
that needs a bigger platform, by the way. She's got granny boobs, and I'm not feeling,
No,
I
here
need
it
to
is.
talk about that a little
Here
bit.
it is.
Yeah,
it's the one that you were just talking about.
Okay.
There's on Twitter, and you're going to have to pronounce this. It's at SAORSA.
Saorsa.
1776. So KARI Baxter Donovan is at SAORSA RSA 1776. And I looked at this today before I wanted to make sure I knew what you were doing on Twitter. And you wrote, I collect leftist manuals. This one is massive. Organized for Change, Activists' Guide to Police Reform from Policy Link of 2004. You got a couple of photographs in here. The photograph on the left shows it looks like somebody photocopied this stuff. The photo on the right shows that this book or manual, this sucker looks like it's at least an inch thick.
That's me. I took a picture of it on my phone. I'm looking at this thing right now. This is probably the biggest manual that I have.
It's huge.
It's huge, and it took me a long time. It's funny because it took me a long time to get the courage, because it's so big, to start to deconstruct it. And now well, that's kind of a long story, but it took me, it was an obstacle, right? Because the size is so big. And once I started getting into it, I'm like, oh, this is simple. This is just everything that I know, page by page, paragraph by paragraph. I could write a book on this darn thing. But what's interesting is when I finally decided to get the courage up to do it was, I don't know, what did you say, the beginning of July? Well, Kamala Harris's sister is the one who wrote this manual. Isn't that a coincidence?
Really?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, and when in the first couple of pages, I traced the origins of the authors of this manual and the funding for it. Okay, so the point that I really want to make is, listen, this is very well orchestrated, how they wanted to reform, right? And I just had an article today that I wrote about the Trayvon Martin case, which was 2012. That was after this manual was written. This manual is basically how to turn Trayvon Martin case into the Black Lives Matter, into the socialist utopia. You and I could go off down a rabbit hole on that stuff, I know. But this manual happens to be a honeypot of how the Marxist left, Democrats, first of all, their crony capitalism, you know, their all of their relationships with each other, you know, family and their nepotism and all that crap. You'll see it come out in this manual. They've all been around forever.
Yeah, it's as incestuous as everybody else.
Thank you. Yeah.
Though they're trying to tell you, oh, we're not, we're independent. No, wrong.
Right. And people need to really understand, like, this is a movement to take your civil liberties. You're not a part of their movement. You can come up alongside of them and perhaps be a little grassroots person, answer the phone in an office or something like that. But they have a foundation, a movement that's very tightly knit together. And that's what I was talking about when Obama was running for senator, is the community organizing world. For example, I had to write a paper on Michelle Robinson's thesis. That's Michelle Obama. When I was in college, it's all the same people show up over and over and over again. They're all related to each other. So we're not crazy when we notice that.
No.
But in this particular manual, which is how to reform, reform means defund, and I go page by page and I pull out some of the wording. I try to draw the parallels back to Saul Alinsky, the Mac Daddy of, you know, community organizing back in the 50s and 60s. So this thing, you know, we're not crazy to see the connections, right? And this manual has got Kamala Harris's sister's name right in it.
Oh, lovely. Absolutely lovely. We're going to have to take a break, folks. It's the bottom of the hour. We're talking to KARI Baxter Donovan. When we come back, she wrote what I believe is a highly important article that we're going to go over about a situation that I'll wager you probably haven't heard about. I want to talk with her about the implications of this incident, and then I want to ask KARI Baxter Donovan where she's writing. I know she's writing at this one place where I found the article, and you said you're writing at a whole bunch of different locations. So I want to find out where she's writing. Her stuff is great. She's been writing for quite some time. When we come back, one of the most significant articles that I've read that is seriously underreported for, I would consider, at least the past week. And I mean nationally, not just locally, not just North Carolina or Frog Dick, North Dakota. No, I mean nationally. I'm BZ. This is The Saloon. We're talking to KARI Baxter Donovan. I'll be right back after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
No surrender, ever.
because truth is not always pleasant.
This is Shannon Wright of The Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Mike's not here, so I gotta talk fast. You gotta join us. Fall season. Getting ready to start up with a whole bunch of new stuff. News and food and politics and sports and entertainment and a whole bunch of stuff. But wait, Mike's coming. I gotta go. Remember, Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media, Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. Make sure you tune in.
Featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American maggots won't. BZ is fundamentally changing America, one diaper at a time. Just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, where the speech is free, but the drinks are not. The Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night, commencing at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, where pushback is a requisite art form in and of itself. Let your ossicles be truly liberated when you listen to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, only on SHR Media Network. No ferrets were harmed in the making of this ad.
Join me, Jack Alexander, for the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast, as I take a unique outsider's look at the issues affecting the USA. I fearlessly take on the issues that everyone else is too scared to touch. The Jack Alexander Experiment podcast is available wherever good podcasts can be found, like Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcast. The Jack Alexander Experiment, because it's not a matter of left versus right, it's a matter of right versus wrong.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Featuring the effervescent contrarian sackheads Clint, plus the unrestrained bulbosity of BZ, the Sackheads Against Tyranny is a real chat show. Doubling your late-night conservative talk show pleasure with double the hosts, you can listen every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. Please note, some contents may have settled during shipping. Member FDIC, batteries not included, warranty voided Montenegro.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to the bloviating Zeppelins, Berserk, Bobcat, Slew, and Radio Show. In the first hour, I have KARI, Baxter, Donovan, one each, right here over the teleola phone, courtesy of, I don't know, whoever happens to be your provider way over there in the North Carolina area. I've determined that I'm one of the world's worst self-promoters, so I may as well start saying this like everybody else does. If you're on YouTube, hit share. Please start to share the hell out of my shows. If you're on Spreaker, watching on Spreaker, hit share and send it to as many people as you possibly can. I really would like to get a lot of people listening to this. So share like sharing Sherrington. That doesn't make much sense.
It's good.
It really doesn't. Okay. You wrote, folks, we're talking to KARI, Baxter, Donovan. You wrote to me an extremely serious and very important article today. Well, no, it wasn't today. I'm looking to see the date, and I don't see the day on this. It was probably 2 or 3 days ago. Might have even been over the weekend. You'll have to tell me in a moment. But it's at DJHJ Media. And this is the first time I've seen you there. So DJHJmedia.com. So KARI, Baxter, Donovan, what does DJHJ Media stand for? What is that?
So what we're doing now is we got some great social media influencers who have decided that they want some media, some writers. So there's 3 different social media influencers who I'm writing for right now. DJHJ Media is David Harris Jr.
Oh, okay. The guy that got famous doing he was weighing in on all sorts of topics and whatnot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's a big social media influencer, and he's written a book, and he has some podcasts, and he does some streaming things and whatever. And then he's got a group of his own pool of writers.
Okay, cool.
And so
very nice.
And then, that's DJHJ Media. So, if you found something there.
Yes, and that's the article I want to go over. Folks, did you hear of this? I think there are some major implications. And maybe when I get through reading the headline here and going into it a bit, you can tell me when this was written. I would suspect over the weekend sometime, but I'm going to poke around in your brain for a little bit after I read the headline. And again, this is from DJHJmedia.com. Helicopter in Trump's detail hit with gunfire over Virginia. The FBI is investigating an incident involving an Air Force helicopter assigned to President Donald Trump's support detail that was hit by a bullet over Virginia that was shot from the ground. McClatchy News reported an Air Force helicopter was forced to make an emergency landing at a Virginia airport Monday after somebody shot at it, injuring a member of the crew, local and military officials told McClatchy. The UH-1N Huey helicopter, everybody knows what a Huey looks like, folks, is assigned to the 1st Helicopter Squadron at Joint Base Andrews and had been on a routine training flight, the base said in a statement. Stop. The reason this is important is this is the area, the location of President Trump's Marine One. They run out of that base. And it may be that helo was shot at because someone at the ground thought that our president may be in that helo. KARI, Baxter, Donovan.
Yeah, so that story I wrote, I think the incident happened on Monday, but the news wasn't readily available until Wednesday. And it hit, and I saw that it was breaking, and I grabbed it. Usually I want some good, juicy story about Marxism or communism, and I've been doing a lot of stuff with people in Taiwan and Hong Kong, and I've got a number of people I'm talking to. And, I usually want these, throat-punching articles. I want to throat punch the Marxists, and I want to get in there. But this article was intriguing to me, so when I saw it breaking, I thought, this is something that I'm going to write about, because I can basically write about whatever I want to write about, as long as I just, pound out some content for these 3 sites. Okay. So what interested me about that is exactly what you just pointed out. I think that people need to understand what President Trump is facing. And so that article sort of goes in this series for me of basically like what our president is facing. And now I should have gone back and followed up on it to see what, what other news had come out and updated that article. I forgot about it actually. But yeah, isn't that interesting? When I saw that coming over, breaking, I just got chills through my body. I mean, I was like, what the heck is going on? What is going on? We now have, it looks like somebody was trying to shoot at our president from Virginia.
Yes.
Virginia. That's what it looks like.
Agreed, because if you look at the photograph, folks, and Jack Alexander in chat makes the obvious comparison, is that's where Air Force One is based as well. The helo is painted in colors similar to Marine One, and someone who doesn't know the difference between, I believe, a Sikorsky and a Huey would take a pot shot at something like that from, and I think the article it says, from about 1,000 feet. So 1,000 feet, folks, that's easy from within a sniper rifle and a sight and a scope. Very easy, even though it's moving. So
and there was just not a lot. I was searching for more and more and more.
It got buried. It got buried.
It got buried. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to talk about it.
It happened on Monday. I had to keep checking the date. Like, it happened on Monday, but there wasn't anything noteworthy until Wednesday. And then everybody sort of picked it up at the same time, including me. And when I went to dig around, there wasn't much out there. So that tells me maybe they don't want us really to know a lot of the details.
No, well, number one, you wouldn't want this to get out first.
Now that happened this week. While remember, President Trump had to be removed from the press conference because there was a shooting.
Right, the gunfire outside the White House.
Yeah, so there's that, and then there's also the siege, which is being planned for September 18th.
Right.
Which is a foreign group of people from Canada. Talk about election interference. Who wants to come in and basically, I wouldn't be surprised. I told somebody today I wouldn't be surprised if they try to burn the White House down from this group of people, because that Democrat mayor in Washington D.C. is pretty open to torturing President Trump. So just that article goes into this series of this is what's going on in and around our Capitol, what our president is facing.
That is my point exactly. Mm-hmm. I still speak to people in various forms of federal service. People will either hate this or love this. I happen to love this. The Secret Service loves Trump. Hated Obama, hated Michelle, despises the Clintons. Bill, not so much. Hillary, horribly despises her. And they would do essentially anything they could to protect President Trump. I was told in a circuitous route that there may have already been quashed a number of attempts on him. But just like this article came out about 5 days ago, the ACLU is crowing, and other leftists are crowing about there are currently 400 lawsuits against the White House and President Trump, individually and collectively. In the history of the United States, I have never known or heard about an individual who was the focus of such hatred and contempts ever as President Trump. And it's because he is ruining the deep state from the inside out. He is turning them upside down. He is essentially redoing everything that Obama did, which was ruinous in and of itself.
Look at the news today, right? Yeah, yeah.
And we're going to go, oh my God, right?
Yes.
We're going to get to that.
Trying everything.
Here's another troll that I got. That I was having a little war. And I said, and plus the UAE and Israel today. And then the troll went, well, that doesn't mean anything. Blah, blah, blah. They've been blah, 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 blah. And I said, oh, great. You're an anti-Semite too. Oh, no, you can't say that. I'm Jewish. You didn't know that I was Jewish. It's like, shut the fuck up. You're just another piece of shit leftist that doesn't want to hear anything. But I fear for President Trump because this has already been violent. It is going to get violent. Just as you mentioned, shoot, let me see if I can even find this. Gosh, what was it called?
I was going to say, I was talking to somebody today who called me, and she was very worried and concerned. She's new to politics, and she calls me every once in a while, just like, she's just somebody will take a few minutes to talk to her. She's not hysterical. But anyway, I said to her, hey, listen, President Trump already has accepted that he has given his life for the country. That's pretty obvious to me because he came right back after, they said there's a gunman or whatever. And he's like, okay, fine. Where should I go? I mean, I think he's pretty much resigned to the fact that he has given his life for the country one way or the other.
Well, and of course not taking a salary.
So might as well go for it. Might as well just go for it and clean up some Marxism and some progressive communists. I'm sorry. I could go on for hours.
No. Hell yeah. This is interesting from Sergeant Booker in chat. Was the shot at the helicopter a test shot to see if it could be done?
Right.
I wouldn't rule that out.
I need to go back. I'll do that tomorrow. I need to go back and find if there's any updates. But that's as much information pretty much as anyone had at that time, which was Wednesday.
You already made mention of this, and I found the article. And I knew if I looked, I'd find it as you were speaking, and I did. And maybe you know something about this website. I don't know. The website makes I don't see any direct linkage to what I'm about to tell people and the website. Adbusters.org. I don't know what the hell that means.
Well, Adbusters. That is, okay, this guy is actually absolutely brilliant. Because don't forget, I come from that world. My grandfather was the original madman, right? And taught me about messaging, branding, and PR, the use of advertising and politics, right? So for your new listeners, this has been my world. This is what set me on this path of politics when I was a little girl, was my grandfather telling me these things. So the guy behind Adbusters is one of these brilliant graphic artists. He's into advertising.
Okay.
He makes some brilliant points, and I'm like, see, he listens where the right screws up messaging, branding, and PR for political campaigns. He's the guy behind Occupy Wall Street. That's what's important to know about this Adbusters guy, okay? Basically using the power of advertising to draw people in, messaging, branding, and PR to keep them in this movement. Of course, he's a megalomaniac and he's insane leftist. But I have to respect kind of, the power that he has. The Adbusters thing, and I wrote an article about that that's up at HJ Media as well. That's the siege that they're going to start on September 18th. And so he is brilliantly using advertising techniques to draw in all of these people from these BLM, all these socialists, all these Marxists, all of these, everybody leftists movements to get to the White House, and they're going to, and the Democrat mayor is going to allow them to do this.
Oh, yeah.
He is going to, in siege, that's war, he's going to take over the streets around the White House with these groups, and that's the plan. Now, the thing is, he hasn't gotten much traffic, and the Adbusters site doesn't get much traffic, but
he's got a hashtag now. You got a hashtag now, and you got anything you want.
His imagery is brilliant. He's a brilliant graphic designer.
Oh, yeah. And I'm looking at this one right here on Adbusters. It's called
Adbusters.
Hashtag White House Siege Tactical Briefing number 2. And it's got a red graphic up there, just like you said. Starting September 17th, we lay siege to the White House. So, folks, I believe this is going to be physical.
No, it's going to be physical. Now, listen, this is the point that I'm trying to make to people, because all of a sudden a bunch of people have caught on to this, and I've been sending my article around. This guy's from British He's from British Vancouver. He's from British Columbia. He is a foreign agent. His purpose, because I deconstructed his his day of tactic training or whatever. I deconstructed it. He is there purposefully to upset the election. This is a foreign agent who is interfering with our election. Why isn't that what the left is so worried about?
Yeah,
why
exactly.
are they supporting him then? Then why are they supporting this guy? Because he's doing exactly what they accuse Trump of doing. That's an article that I wrote. That's the Siege article. And a number of people have started to pick up on the fact their concern is, funded by Soros. I'm like, oh, screw that. Don't even pay attention to that. That's just like a bunch of noise. Who cares if he's funded by? You got to understand, it's a foreign agent. He's from Canada. The guy is from Canada. The Adbusters guy is in there. Go look on the site.
What you said. Wait a minute. White. Oh, all right. Okay, that didn't happen. God, this bell is messing up. Okay, let me see if I can do this right. What you just said before. There we go. I think I need a new bell. In any event, is actually true. What the left and the Democrats accuse you of, you being conservatives, it is what they are doing themselves at that exact, precise, same moment, which is exactly what you said.
Yes, as soon as they accuse you of something, just go like, noteworthy, get a notebook, that's noteworthy, write it down, and then investigate. That's what they're doing. Guarantee you. That's the mental illness, and that's how, if you know your enemy, you will be able to figure it out. Think. That's what they're doing right there. So, foreign agent interfering with an election.
Yeah, but of course it's all about Russia. I wanted to have Jeff Dunetz on today, and Jeff Dunetz couldn't make it on tonight because right now, just like with you, it's 11:52 p.m. in North Carolina, and consequently, it's 11:52.
But I could stay up all night talking to you.
It's 11:52 p.m. in Jeff Dunett's time, but this is an amazing story that just came out today. The one that my troll said, "Oh, this doesn't make any difference."
Right?
Really?
Palestinians getting crammed, throat punch. No, that doesn't make any difference.
Whiskey Dale in chat says liberalism is a mental disorder. Oh, hell yeah!
It is. And
hell
Palestinians getting watch them freak out once they really start to realize, oh, wait a minute, the Palestinians are the ultimate leftist, liberal, progressive. Well, this is a great story.
I mean, I've heard things from this is an history-making event to this is the precursor of the end times and all points in between.
It is,
for people that are really of the biblical bent. And BZ, what the hell are you talking about? Well, I pulled this up from ABC News, so it's not like it came from Fox News or Breitbart. No, this came from ABC News, what leftists would believe is verifiable news. Headline says, Israel, UAE, that's the United Arab Emirates, agree to normalize ties in what Trump calls an historic agreement. Well, okay, examine that headline, in what Trump calls an historic agreement. No, dipshit, that is an historic agreement. It's not about what Trump calls it. No one else has ever pulled that off. Not Obama, not Bush, none of the Clintons, not Carter. No one has pulled this off.
Right. And the way he did it, I went and I wrote about it. I put it up at a different site, but I went and I read his statement, and I'm like, see, right in there is the promise of what? The promise of what got these two people unified, these two leaders, these two groups, countries unified on the same page, which was technology, jobs, prosperity. Gee, the same thing that all humanity wants, and that's the foundation of the populist movement that got Trump elected. That's why I'm perfectly confident he's going to win re-election, by the way.
Well, and that's also the anti-communism role. Communism
Anti-communism.
hates
Right.
capitalism. They don't believe they do believe, I should say, the state runs everything. And in communism, as opposed to socialism, the state owns property and it owns you. In communism, there is no such concept as private property. Well, let's go into the
and
story.
Everyone's miserable. So nobody loves socialism and communism.
Well, all these
Except
assholes,
for the people at the very
including
top, right?
leftists, think that they're the ones that can magically do socialism better than anybody else. Though it's only responsible in the past 100 years for 120 million deaths. KARI Baxter Donovan, we only got 5 minutes left. Well, that's okay. I can rush through this real quick.
Okay.
3 weeks ago, I had on Lily Tang Williams. She provided a statistic to me from China because she lived during the time of Mao Zedong and actual embraced communism in China. She said between 1959 and 1961, due to starvation, and people do not recount this statistic, 20 million Chinese were starved to death in China. So the true number should be 100 million people killed due to communism, plus the stat that China doesn't want anyone to know, plus the inconvenient little 20 million people that in the course of 2.5 years, China managed to kill in the late 50s and early 60s. No problem. Here's the article. President Donald Trump said in a surprise announcement Thursday, today, it's still Thursday where you are too, only by 3 more minutes, that Israel and the United Arab Emirates had agreed to normalize relations, and that, as a part of the deal, Israel would not annex parts of the West Bank it currently occupies. Israel and the United Arab Emirates will fully normalize their diplomatic relations, Trump said, surrounded by aides in the Oval Office. They will exchange embassies, never before happened, and ambassadors, never before happened, and begin cooperation across the board on a broad range of areas including tourism, education, healthcare, trade, and security, just like you said. No other president has been able to pull this off.
You know what else I love? And you know what else I love is it highlights the Palestinians. That was the angle of my article. The Palestinians are bitching about it, including Talibi, whatever her name is, over there in Michigan, who is a radical from Western Michigan University, where I came from. Yeah. So I've always got my eye on her. I'm always like, I got your number. I know exactly where you came from, and it's crap, okay? But what I like is this highlights who the heck is the problem over there. It's the Palestinians. And so we don't have to take any more of this, like, you just don't understand the plight of the poor Palestinians. No, F off. Who's still having problems? And President Trump was asked about that at the press conference tonight at like 5:30, the 5:31. And he basically said, no, I think the Palestinians will, get on board when they realize basically all these big rollers are going to come in with all these jobs and this new lifestyle. The Palestinians are going to get on board. But if they don't, then we're going to be able to say with full confidence, I don't have to listen to you anymore about your stupid Palestinians, okay? They're the problem. We're not confused anymore about who the problem is over there.
No, you're absolutely correct. Does anybody, folks, because I have a memory and history is in this gourd, anybody remember a dude by the name of Yasser Arafat, who died of cancer in 2004, made millions and millions off of the deaths of Palestinians, installed one of his wives into a palatial area in Paris, France, sucked tons of money off the PLO, and Israel, back in the mid-90s to late 90s, offered Arafat exactly what he wanted at the time, peace. In that time, Arafat refused it and turned it down. It's the PLO that turned that down.
And just like the leftists, and I think I wrote another article where I basically was, I got to pull that back up. I think I wrote that one so fast I don't even remember it. But I was drawing the conclusions to the leftist movements here in the United States. They so much want to be a third world, right? They so much think it's so cool to be third world. They're even taking their marching orders from like old, PLO, old, these old movements. They talk about them as if they glamorize these things, right? And so to me, I have always drawn the conclusion that the Palestinians and their tactics is very much like the leftists. It's all one big crap pot of Marxism, it's control and domination and lying, and it's the same origins. And maybe it's biblical, maybe it's religious, I don't know, but there's a group of people in the world who always want to fight. And then there's a group of people in the world who say, hey, I don't really care what you do, just let me go live my life, right? And so I kind of like it when those domination freaks, I like it when they get exposed. And that's what President Trump has done. And that's what I thought he was going to do. That's what he's been doing. And he's doing a good job.
That's what I pay him to do. Now, one final question before we go, because I'm going to have to take a break. One final question. But yeah, I'll tell you what. What is today? Today's the 13th. Okay. Before the end of August, I'd like to have you back to go into more depth on a lot of stuff. Can I have you back before the end of August on one of these Tuesday and Thursday nights? Okay, because we didn't get a chance. I got a long video that I'm going to play, so I don't have a lot of time to go into the second hour just yet, but I want to have you back. Can you do that, Kari?
Yes, absolutely. I would love to. I always love chatting with you. You see, I get fired up.
Okay.
I have a lot of things to talk to you about, and I'm trying to get it all out at one time.
Good, we'll do that, because there isn't nearly enough time to be able to do that. So, Kari Baxter Donovan, I will contact you again, probably in the same fashion that I contacted you for the show, and I want to have you back before the end of August, and if that's cool with you, it's great with me.
Yes, I love it, and I hope you stay cool. Hey, keep rocking.
Oh, the studio is great. Yeah. My wife's house is crap,
but
the studio is great.
Your lovely, it's your lovely wife's house.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it's so sad. Okay.
Hey.
Hey.
I'll talk to you soon.
Before you go, Kari Baxter Donovan, tell people where they can find your writing.
So I'm at djhdaymedia.com, and I'm at rfangle.com. That's a new one today that just got started.
Okay, RF Angle?
Yes, and that's Ryan Fournier.
Okay.
And he's got a big group called Students for Trump. And then there's the other one is Unite America First, and that's Will Johnson's site.
Okay.
So, I got articles all over this.
Okay. All right. I put them up in chat so people can go find your
thanks.
stuff.
I appreciate it.
And check her out on Twitter, too. Check Kari Baxter Donovan out on Twitter. Madame, thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for accepting for the election show on November 3rd. Greatly appreciated.
Yes. I can't wait to talk about President Donald J. Trump.
Oh, I was going to ask you. Damn it. Okay, I'm over the break.
Oh, no. I'm sorry.
Because I haven't been paying attention according to the time. One final question, and we'll go into this in greater detail. Do you believe Donald John Trump is going to win the Electoral College and the popular this time around? I do.
That's a really good question. I've never even thought about if he's going to win the popular vote or not.
Okay, all right. Put that in your brain housing group, and we will attack that first when you come back.
You got it.
Slightly later this month. All right.
Have a great night.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye.
God bless. Take care. Be safe.
God bless. Bye-bye.
All righty. That was Kari Baxter Donovan. That's another reason that I love listening to her. And you're going to love listening to her again a little bit later this August. I'll be right back after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Southern Sense is conservative talk with Annie, the radio chick you bellows as host, and C.S. Bennett co-host. Informative, fun, irreverent, and politically incorrect. You never know where they'll go, but you'll love the journey. Annie is a top conservative host on Top Talk Radio and features some of the finest guests packed with important politicians and newsmakers. Listen every Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, noon to 3 Pacific, on the SHR Media Network. Remember, Southern Sense is common sense.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunnett. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunnett.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Good evening. Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show is featured on the SHR Media Network every Tuesday and Thursday night for 2 hours at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific. Whilst manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, BZ continues to radically change the world of leftists, one diaper at a time. Stop balancing your checkbooks. Stop cleaning your fish tanks. The bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show is your magnet for truth, justice, obesity, a darkened studio, and late-night freedom. No United States of America freedoms were abridged in the making of this ad.
This is Shannon Wright.
And this is Michael Wright.
Reminding you to listen
to The Right Way with Shannon and Mike.
Every Monday through Thursday.
7 to 9 a.m.
Right here on shrmedia.com.
Join me, Jack Alexander, for the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast, as I take a unique outsider's look at the issues affecting the USA. I fearlessly take on the issues that everyone else is too scared to touch. The Jack Alexander Experiment podcast is available wherever good podcasts can be found, like Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcast. The Jack Alexander Experiment, because it's not a matter of left versus right, it's a matter of right versus wrong.
After 6 years covering terror and corruption, the unpleasant blind guy is making a change. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker and YouTube through SHR Media and on the Western Free Radio Network as I team up with Jeff Mitchell, host of the English Defense League radio show on blogtalkradio.com. Check show pages for airtimes. It's the Unpleasant Blind Guy.
On EDL Radio.
There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Featuring the effervescent contrarian, Sackheads Clint, plus the unrestrained bulbosity of BZ, the Sackheads Against Tyranny is a real chat show. Doubling your late-night conservative talk show pleasure with double the hosts, you can listen every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. Please note, some contents may have settled during shipping. Member FDIC, batteries not included, warranty voided Montenegro.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And I'm back. This is the second hour. I'm a little late. I was speaking to KARI Baxter Donovan, and I promise we will have her back. The reason that unfortunately I customarily would have carried KARI Baxter Donovan over into the second hour and have done so a number of times in the past. But because I am not streaming on Facebook right now, once you hear this video, you know that it will get me removed from Facebook once again. And I'm taking a chance on YouTube. It's if you're watching YouTube right now, well, as it's being broadcast live, there really isn't a whole hell of a lot that YouTube can do about it, since they don't know what's being broadcast until after it's over, so to speak. Spreaker, I don't believe, will do. They interfere a little less than some of the other people. The only introduction that I'm going to give to this is in the 90s, when I was working for a large, about 3,000 complement deputy department. I happened to be in detectives in a number of locations. One of them was in child abuse. While I was in child abuse, I had occasion to fight those who I called child mind fuckers. They would literally screw children. They are very age rangist, and part of their goal is to screw with the minds of children. Some night, I don't know when, I'm going to tell some of my stories about having worked in child abuse. I would expect that when I do that particular show, don't know when, that you don't have anything to eat or drink because you'll throw up. I'm also going to make reference to a blog that I used to write for, absolutezerounited.blogspot.com. It's still up. It still exists. People haven't been posting there for quite some time. I've told this story before, and that is that I was sued by a pedophile because of some of the stories that I wrote from absolutezerounited.blogspot.com. That is an anti-pedophile site. If you go there, before you begin reading, again, make sure the contents of your stomach are empty. There's nothing there. You will throw up. The video that I'm going to play for you is about 40 minutes. It won't leave me a lot of time at the end. But there is one story that I want to get into before I leave for this week. That having been said, this video is, I believe, self-explanatory. It's about 38 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. It would have gotten taken down on Facebook. I have moved this over to another location. It got taken down. I found it at another location. That got taken down. And so I kind of pushed it to one side in another place that I don't think people are going to find it. By the way, I don't know if you're aware of this. Let me give you something very strange to mull over. If you guys aren't aware, there's a site called Pornhub.com, massive pornography site. The reason I know of it is because, do you know what's happening on Pornhub now? In order to keep videos from being erased, people are putting political videos very selectively in Pornhub.com, uploading political videos to Pornhub.com so that they don't magically disappear. That's what kind of an incredibly screwed up world this is. This gentleman is going to make reference to a movie that's already again disappeared from Amazon. It was on Amazon. You can't see it now. This gentleman is named John Paul Rice. He is a producer in Hollywood, and I'll just let him tell his own tale.
Just a moment. See if there's anybody who comes on. I just wanted to talk to a couple of you. My name is John Paul Rice, for the people watching that may not know who I am. My friends know me. I'm an independent film producer. I've been in Hollywood for about 20 years. I started my film career in Remember the Titans. Worked at Senator International, later Mandate Pictures, under the producers who did Juno, The Grudge, Harold and Kumar, Stranger Than Fiction, and eventually The Hunger Games when they went back into Lionsgate. The reason I wanted to talk to everybody here today is because over the course of the last week or two, we have found out without notification that Amazon.com, for which we have 6 of our movies on there, our film, A Child's Voice, which has been on there for over a year and a half in the UK, the United States, and now 70 other countries, was suddenly, without notification, removed entirely from their platform. They unpublished it, and they made it not searchable in most of the sites. We've only tested a few outside of the United States, but the one in the United States, if you put in A Child's Voice in Amazon.com, you can't find it on the 1,100 pages that they'll give you back on your searches. The only way that you can get it is through a direct link, and we discovered this because the director's daughter had sent the links out to several of her friends when the Wayfair scandal broke, as well as the Maxwell files being released in the last 48 hours. And Amazon came back to us. They gave us a very standard corporate non-committal response that said, we make a lot of changes, we do this and that and the other, we judge things based on performance, but they couldn't give us a very specific answer, and we all know what the answer is.
Okay, stop just for a second. Let me throw something out there. We know about Epstein. We know about Maxwell. Is there any doubt, does anybody have any doubt that all of the take, digitized or otherwise, of all the cameras from every residence, including Pedo Island, that Jeffrey Epstein owned, and he owned at least 4, 5, 6 various homes in various locations around the world, does anyone doubt that the take from all of those cameras and every place he had was wired for sound and video? Does anyone doubt that all of that take doesn't exist somewhere? You'd be a fool if you think you didn't. Let me throw this out at you, then I will continue playing Mr. Rice's video. Do you not wonder why so many people are great fans of China these days? I know China has a lot of money, but China's economy is tanking, folks. And Xi Jinping, his ass is up against the wall. I'll bet you, however, he has one thing that the Wizard of Oz doesn't. I'll bet he has copies of that, and has said in no uncertain, couched, overt, or covert words that unless you back me, DC politicians, possibly some state politicians as well, but definitely DC politicians, what I have of you, I will release. China owns DC politicians. DC politicians, you cannot convince me otherwise, are on the take for China. And I suspect that might be one of the reasons. Now, Mr. Rice, continue, please.
What our movie did before Epstein was known about in the public, and before Maxwell was known about in the public, is we found a network of pedophiles among a global network of people who were selling kids back and forth to each other, trading them like candy. It goes right in through Hollywood. If you look at the Daily Beast article, you'll see that Jeffrey Epstein had a pipeline right into Hollywood through Harvey Weinstein. That was last year. I've done a lot of deep dives and research into this, and there is a very satanic element to it, for which we incorporated it into our movie. Our movie is a feature film. It deals with two teens, one who's a homeless, heroin-addicted teen, hears the voice of a child who had been killed at the beginning of the movie, calls out for his help, and he goes on a mission to rescue a girl from these human traffickers. They come together, and then they stand up to this network in a spirit of love and courage for all of these children. It's a very beautiful film. It's been well-reviewed, well-received, critically acclaimed by the people that have reviewed it, and also many users, by the thousands, by the tens of thousands, by the millions all over the world have seen this. So when we had all of this come up, we went viral with it on Twitter the other day, and it exploded because we still have one platform left here in the United States, and that's Vimeo.com on demand. What I would like everybody to do is, more importantly, I don't need to get back on Amazon. I already know what they're going to do, and they've got a stack of lawyers, but we're looking for alternative platforms where we can release this movie and get it out to as many people as possible. Our movie is not a documentary, it's a feature film. And we did this based on all the evidence and the facts that we had learned and incorporated into a story that you get involved through the character's journey. Their road to redemption is through love. And this issue of human trafficking, which many people are waking up to today for a variety of reasons, is the issue that defines all of us in our time. The media corporations, the most powerful 6 corporations in the land, in the world for that matter, are all implicated in human trafficking of kids.
Listen
I would point to anybody
to
who wants
this.
to know more about that to look at Project Veritas and the leak disclosure of off-air footage of Amy Robach from ABC News when she found out and was discussing in 2016 that they had everything from Virginia Giuffre, all of it. Everybody who was involved, they had all the evidence. Their own lawyer said that when all is said and done, Jeffrey Epstein will go down as one of the most prolific pedophiles in all of history, and they buried that story to have access to the royal family, for which we now know Prince Andrew was implicated.
Right.
They did not have any remorse for the victims in that video. This is a bigger problem because most people know in that world, and the world that I come from in Hollywood, that it is a hidden layer that everybody knows is there. When the Me Too movement started in 2017, I reached out to several of my female actress friends who were prominent in LA. You would know them by name. Many of them you would know by just their look, because you go, oh, that was her in that movie or that movie. And I said, well, what about the children? What about the children? And the response was, we know. But they were silent on it. And it destroyed me because it destroyed my illusion of what rights, human rights were, children's rights were. This is a child abuse system that we have been living in for a very long time, and it's been allowed to go on. And I will not be silent about this because it affects every single one of us. The people on television who smile at you, who tell you stories, who give you news, are the ones who hide all of this from us. They are not talking about the real issues. They are distracting you with division issues. This is a unification issue. When the Maxwell files came out 48 hours ago, I went on MSNBC, I went on CNN.com, and I looked at every single one of their headlines, and there was no mention of it whatsoever. They were talking about John Lewis's funeral. They were talking about Obama versus Trump, all of the bullshit that you and I hear every single day. And it doesn't matter what side of the political equation you're on this. This is a child issue. This is a human issue. This is not a political issue. It has nothing to do with left versus right, Democrat versus Republican, liberal versus conservative, or anything you are or you identify with as in between. We are faced with a crisis of consciousness among the leadership of our banking institutions,
Yes.
of our media corporations,
Yes.
of the Hollywood entertainment industry,
Yes.
of the music industry. This is not about a bunch of young women who were having sex with older men and make it about a bunch of perverts. They raped and tortured these girls against their own free will. No matter whether they paid them or not, if you read the articles and you listen to what Ghislaine Maxwell said about the girls that she picked up in West Palm Beach's trailer parks, she was asked, what about the young girls? What are we going to do to them? What's going to happen to them? She said, they are trash, they are nothing. That's a direct quote from the New Yorker. When I went and looked at edge.org, which you can find out was a multi-billionaire club of people that was financed by Jeffrey Epstein. You can go to edge.org today, look up under people, and go to G. You'll see Bill Gates on there as a contributing member of that organization. And you'd have to go back in the Wayback Machine and Internet Archives to look at all the other people. Jeffrey Epstein was right on there. Marina Abramovich was on there. Paul Allen was on there. All the heads of major industries were on there. And if you start reading some of the articles, one of which I have a direct link to that I will share with anybody who DMs me, there is a direct quote on there that said, indeed, human beings are, in our youngest years, among the most useless creatures in all of the animal kingdom.
Listen to this.
This is how they view children, through science. This is their expression. These are people who have no ground to tell you what to think, what to do. So when they get up there and they start espousing their views on social justice or whatever the hell it is, know that you're hearing a controlled and scripted dialogue that is going through a filter by people who are very powerful, who hold a lot of money, and they are controlling and conditioning all of these people through pedophilia. And there's another layer to it, but it's too unbelievable to believe that they would also sacrifice kids. And I'll give you one statistic that you can look up and verify for yourself. If you go to UNICEF and you look up child sex trafficking or human trafficking, you'll find a statistic globally, worldwide, according to the United Nations, that 40 million people a year are trafficked around this world. 40 million. It's a $150 billion a year industry for which has very dark and ugly ties. And it goes all the way up into Wall Street and beyond. But I will say this, 5.5 million children every year are trafficked around the world. 5.5 million, most of whom don't live past age 7 or 8.
Stop right there. Do you guys remember about a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago, where I had Kate Krasuski on the show, and she told me at the age of 12 she was trafficked to the Middle East because of a debt that her brother owed. She was there. She was raped. It occurred to her. She told her story for the very first time on my show. It's here. It's big. It's huge. It's like the pedophilia industrial complex. It exists.
Which means they have to replenish that supply chain. They harvest organs of children on a black market. In China right now, there are concentration camps for young Muslims to the tune of 1 million people. Nobody's talking about this as modern day slavery.
Right, the Uyghurs.
They are beating these people, they are re-indoctrinating them, and they are raping their wives.
And I should point out, these are the people that are under slavery assembling products for the good little leftists, Nike and Apple.
To start a new bloodline. That's happening right now in China. You can find that on the Washington Post or the New York Times. Nobody else is saying anything about it in our politics, in our mainstream news. Nobody's talking about it. It is slavery of human beings is going on today, and it must stop, and it is a child abuse issue. All of these kids that were preyed upon, many of them came from bad homes. That's not their fault. But these predators, they come after our children because they can offer them things. They can offer them alcohol, they can offer them money, they can offer them drugs to lure them in. And suddenly, as you will find out if you read the Maxwell testimony, you'll find that what they were doing is they asked Ghislaine Maxwell, well, did you ever talk to her about money that she could earn, about giving a hand job or sexual favors to Epstein? And she went through this long explanation. Well, we discussed career advice, and I advised her and possibly, told her that where she could advance her career. That's as far as she would go, and then her lawyer cut her off. These people don't give a shit about anybody, and they get up there and they smile in front of you, and they are infiltrated throughout all of our institutions, including government. They own the politicians, right and left. What we are going to find out very soon is that there aren't Democrats and Republicans in the United States government. There's a unified cabal of controlled people who serve these powers, and they keep the theater going for you and I to run back and forth and vote every 4 years. I have watched horror story after horror story, and I promise you this is true. Go on YouTube and find Anake Lucas, who was a child sex slave at 6 years old for the elite. And she will describe to you, she also gave a TED talk on this, but this was in 2016. She talked about the block of wood that she saw with the stains of blood of children on it. The predators are not just raping and having sex and torturing and beating these kids. They're murdering them for pleasure. This is not a pedophile. These are psychopaths. And they have no remorse whatsoever in what they're doing. What we need to do in this world is unify together to protect all life on this planet and the sacredness of children. Because if we are going to make it through this time with all the upheavals that are going to come, socioeconomic, racial, however you want to measure it, this is the unifying issue that the establishment will not give you a movement for. You're going to have to do it on your own. They will give you the Me Too movement because they can make it about hatred of men and weaponize it and make it political. They'll give you the Black Lives Matter movement because they can weaponize it and make it political. They can have Colin Kaepernick take a knee, divide the country, and he walks away with a check from Nike at a tens of millions of dollars NFL star level deal. While Nike has concentration camp, slave labor camp workers.
Yes.
Working in China at their factories, also our kids can have their Air Jordans. And Colin Kaepernick says nothing about that. Where are our Martin Luther King Jr.'s and our Malcolm X's? They're in celebrity culture. All of these people who get up and say that we live in an oppressive system are taking checks from white men who are paying them. And why I'm saying this is I'm so angry because it all ties into this abuse of human rights. We have to stop fighting each other and unite for this country and this world for our children. I don't care that Amazon took my movie down. In fact, it tells me that we're doing better than ever before and that this issue is spreading all over. 80 million impressions last month alone on TikTok for Pizzagate, for which if anybody looks into it, I tell them, go look at the New York Times coverage in 2016 and look at how they covered it, and then go look at James Alefantis' Instagram images. They completely omitted them. This is the family restaurant owner who is posting pictures of children in compromising positions, and all of the friends that James Alefantis has was talking about how delicious those kids looked. Would you send your child and walk into a restaurant for which the owner is publicly doing those kinds of things on social media in a public forum? Look at Pedogate 2020. Watch Out of Shadows to get an idea of how disgusting these people are.
By the way, stop right there. In chat, if you are at SHR Media Chat, shrmedia.com, in the chat area, I put in the link to the movie he just mentioned, Out of Shadows, and the other individual that he mentioned, Anarchy Lucas, who was a sex slave at the age of 6. The link for that is also in chat. It used to be on Netflix. I don't know if it is anymore. If you haven't seen Out of Shadows, because Daily Beast says, oh, this is insane. It's a bunch of silly stuff. Oh, really? Tell you what, you're an adult. You make up your mind. You go watch Out of Shadows. The link is there in SHR Media Chat. Then come back and we'll talk.
The gall to call you a right-winger or a conspiracy theorist or a white supremacist or a neo-Nazi. They'll do it to everybody.
Yep.
Doesn't matter whether you're a Democrat or Republican. They'll do it to everybody. I've been called every name in the book, and all I'm telling you this, I woke up because I listened to what other people were saying, and I waited and I sought out the truth for myself. I didn't wait for the mainstream media to tell me. Every single time there is a disclosure in Hollywood, all of these kids, I worked there for 20 years, I saw shit that nobody should see. I didn't partake in things. It was just right in front of me, out in the open. These kids, when you see Britney Spears, when you see Amanda Bynes, when you see any of these young pop stars have meltdowns, that's not because they're famous. That's not because of the pressures of stardom and the money getting to them.
Guess why?
It's because they're sexually abused and handed around like candy. You go on Crazy Days and Nights, you can go to Tracy Bean's channel and look up that video which she did at the end of 2019. It'll blow your mind. They have a pipeline of kids going from Haiti all the way to the Vatican on boats. And there are people in Hollywood who...
Stop. Haiti? Clintons? Does that start to make sense now?
Facilitate all this, stars who will go and date rich men. You can look up this. These stories are in the press. They're hidden like they're traveling and they're going over here. They're hanging out with billionaire men in the Middle East. It has nothing to do with the fact that they're Muslim. It's not even that they're Muslim. These are kings. These are princes. These are heads of state, dignitaries, billionaire moguls, all hanging around Khan. And it's legitimate. It's completely legitimate. They call it yachting. And that's just the dating part of it and having sex for money, which they throw hundreds of thousands of dollars at some of these girls, depending on how long they'll stay with them and accompany them to dinners and have sex with them and do whatever they want in their orgies or whatever sexual perversions they have. This has been going on for decades, forever. Hollywood is just the most publicly visible because it's out in our faces, it's on our airways, it's on our TV all the time. It's in our music industry. You would not believe the level of satanic crap that is in there. And if you had told me this 3 years ago, I would have said, you're crazy.
Stop. That's why you also want to go see the movie, the documentary, in the link I provided there, Out of Shadows. It's about an individual who, if I'm not mistaken, the guy was a stuntman of all things. But he started to wake up to what he saw around him. And the signs. These people are so blatant and so cynical, they'll install this shit inside their movies. It's there for you to see. I've seen it since the 90s, since I became awakened, when I determined that there were people who I investigated that were age rangist that would screw infants. And once an infant was over a year old, that infant was no longer attractive to that individual. These people exist. This world exists.
That's too far. No. This satanic shit that is going on in our music industry and in Hollywood too, but mostly in the music industry, is so out there. Once you look at it and you see the occult symbolism, they use it in everything. Baphomet is everywhere. Pentagram is all over the place, and they sew it into the consciousness of these young kids through witchcraft and all sorts of fun stuff. They make it fun. They make it sound fun. And it's sexy. But I'll give you this, just on the practical level. You look at every pop star over the last 20 years, and especially in the last 10. Ariana Grande, Miley Cyrus, where do they start? Innocence. Miley Cyrus was Hannah Montana. Innocence. She came out with a music video last year for what? Where she had claws and teeth on her vagina. They promote diversity, tolerance, all of this to confuse people, and they don't even see it. Ariana Grande, unfortunately, I feel very bad for these kids because they're children and they have to do horrific things. Kaya Jones, who I know personally, was a former member of the Pussycat Dolls. And she gave her testimony in 2017, right after the Las Vegas shooting, because she was there. And she started talking as far as she could go about what these kids go through. And her moment of clarity was she saw what everybody else around her in the group was starting to do. Sex was nothing. But then taking advantage of people and having no remorse for it, she saw another level to it. And it was the moment she was at the MGM Grand standing up there singing, and these young girls looking up and idolizing these women. You're the Pussycat Dolls. I want to be like you. She couldn't do it anymore, and she walked away. We can have truthful art in this world. We don't need propaganda. Truthful art begins with the diversity of ideas and truthful information being disclosed. We can have beautiful films. We can have honest expressions that come from within us. The journey of art is to discover what is within you that is the unknown, which you follow a belief to find, but in that discovery there is the transcendent, which is what did I struggle with and come to confront within myself that I needed to release and share and let you decide what is real, what is true for you in that honest expression. But the other stuff, which is I'm going to tell you what you should think, and these are the bad people, and these are the good people, and this is what you need to think, and this is what you need to do, and everybody just gets all excited about that. That is the same stuff that we've been doing for so very long. And Hollywood, I will tell you this, if you look back why there's reboots, remakes, prequels, and sequels, I've discussed this with many of my writer friends in Hollywood who were deeply embedded trying to help get the truth out through the disclosure in their movies. They all told me what the gatekeepers all know at the very, very top, not the executives, not the agents, not the managers. It's like a banking institution. The person at the teller working with the customer does not have privy to the knowledge of the CEO and the chairman of the board and what they discussed the day before. They're just doing their job, right? So everybody does their job according to what they know. So Hollywood gets the word out through the studios. This is the kind of content we're looking for. But the gatekeepers at the very top are managers to make sure that we don't wake up. They control everything that we see, and it is very important for them to do that because they don't need you and I starting to have new ideas about things that go outside of the orthodoxy of what they want us to know. So the reboots, remakes, prequels, and sequels is like a holding pattern so that we keep retreading through the same ideas, even though as humans, our minds are to expand, to grow, to stretch, to reach out. And we're in a time where we're trapped between everything that we're supposed to do. There's so much cognitive dissonance. It's a reflection of this whole system which preys on children. That is the number one Achilles heel of this entire time. These people don't want you to know that. They want you to think that we're the problem instead of the 0.1% who control everything and have the gall to turn around and message to all of us and tell us that we're the problem, or white people were the problem, or black people were the problem, or brown people were the problem. I live here out away from the city now, and I'm in a town that is 50-50 black and white, roughly. We had a Black Lives Matter protest about a month and a half ago, good-sized crowd. We had white and black cops there standing while they protest peacefully, serving food to everyone.
That's
including
unusual.
the cops, next to a Confederate statue. Nobody was pulling it down. Nobody was yelling. Nobody was arguing. Everybody was getting along.
Really unusual.
Across the street, we had restaurants filled to the brim with people having fun, children and parents outside eating ice cream together, no masks. And everybody was fine. This division that they're stirring up, I'm telling you this because you need to understand, they're going to do everything they can to tear this country apart at the seams.
Bingo.
And they're going to throw everything they have at it to keep this truth from coming out. You all have to do your own work as you want to. Support the things that mean the most to you. If this human trafficking issue moves you and stirs you in such a way that you wish to do something about it, get involved locally. Your sheriff in your local town, that is the number one place to start because that's the person that enforces the law locally. Your local representatives and officials need to not only become aware of it, but make it a priority that it doesn't come into your neighborhood. And ultimately what we need to do is go within. Because this, I said earlier, is not a political issue and it's not a corporate issue. It's a human issue. It's a heart-led movement of love. That's what gives us courage to stand up in the face of such horrors. I know that from my own experience because I went through my own discovery of my abuse and had to come to terms with it. But more importantly, to heal from it was the healing within that gave me the power and the strength to forgive my father and mother. Not falsely and move on from it, but love them. Because I saw that my suffering was their suffering, and their suffering was my suffering. And I could care for them unconditionally in spite of all that I had endured, because I realized that what comes about evil in the world is through darkness, which is unconsciousness, unaware of what they were doing with their best intentions. But let me say the opposite of this. The flip side of that equation is that every single child born in this world is born with love in their heart. Every single one of them. You may want to pick off 1 or 2%, fine. I'm going to give that to you. 99 to 98% of all children, 7.5 to 7.8 billion of us on this planet, are born hardwired to love those two people that are supposed to be good to us. And what happens when you damage a child, when you hurt that child, when you humiliate that child, when you put that child second to your own needs, when you beat that child, when you spank that child and put fear in that child's heart and mind, that child will still love you no matter what, because it can't conceive of the two people that were supposed to love them ever to do something that would hurt them, and they will blame themselves, and they will grow up with that all their life.
Let me mention something right about now that I was just thinking. Is there a reason, besides the obvious political aspect, that educators and people on the left and the Democrats don't want kids to go back to school? You need to socialize kids so that they have an idea of what normal is. Somebody I was listening on one of the shows, actually it happened to be on CNN, because I do go there, said that by the age of 6, kids are really beginning to form close associations. And by keeping kids out of school, you're denying them the ability to socialize. This is all purposeful.
The frequency and the consistency of that could make it worse. And if there's no adult around that they can trust, they can grow up to become a pedophile if they were sexually abused. That's what happens.
There's an axiom in child abuse, and it goes like this. All those who abuse were not abused. All those who were abused, all those people who were abused will not necessarily abuse. It's a truism.
There are some that are sexually abused that don't get that, but they had an outlet somewhere. Someone cared for them enough along the way that loved them enough to rescue them and save them and give them love and care. These are the kind of conversations that we need to start having in our own homes, in our own hearts. Because if we're ever to change this time, to never return to a time where our leaders that we elect, people who get appointed to boards and the heads of industries, do this shit to children. This is our consciousness doing this, unaware. These people prey upon abused children because they can offer them something that they don't have at home. It's the same thing with gangs. They don't have a family that loves them, so they go and make their own family somewhere else, among a group that is just like them. That's their identification. All of us are seeking love with a veil over us if we were damaged as kids. And we find it in different ways. We find it with our partners. We find it around the people that abuse us. We want to be loved. Every child is born with that love inside of them. It gives them the power to carry on and not kill themselves. But when you damage it to such a point and destroy it, you're going to get terrible outcomes. You're going to get people who beat each other. You're going to get people who bloody each other. You're going to get people who murder each other.
And I screwed up that axiom. The axiom is actually this: all who were abused will not necessarily abuse, but all who abuse were abused. If you think about it, that does make sense.
Because they're so angry. And I don't think for a moment that we are prepared to deal with that on a mass scale. This child sex trafficking issue is something that we're going to learn many, many things about over the next several months into years from now. And it's going to horrify a lot of people. It's going to traumatize a lot of people because there's unconscious traumas that are going on inside of each and every one of us at different times and at different levels. This is not a judgment about you or anybody else, because you know you better than anybody else. But I'm going to tell you there's a couple of things that need to go out there and need to be known. Number one, learn about Alice Miller and her work. Drama of the Gifted Child, For Your Own Good, The Body Never Lies. Those 3 books right there are paramount to understanding the lingering effects of harmful parenting. And we're not just talking about mom saying a bad word to us. I'm talking about systemic abuse that is in the home.
From this point out, because I'm running out of time, and because it was so damn hot in the house, I'm running out of steam. I have to tell you quite frankly. So I'm going to wrap things up for this week. If you wonder why there is an attempt to norm and streamline and merge pedophilia into the mainstream, a good portion of it is because we're on the cusp of making a massive discovery about the depth and breadth of the amount of evil in this world with regard to human trafficking, pedophilia, and children. If you can get to lawmakers who decide that pedophilia isn't a crime, then you won't get them arrested. Do this. I indicated to you earlier, and I put in chat, 2 documentaries to go look at. Become familiar with the jargon, the nomenclature, because it's new now. And I'll give you another little revelation in just a moment. Understand what a MAP is. A MAP is a minor attracted person. Translated, because I speak leftist, a pedophile. There are also NMAPs or no MAPs, which is a non-offending minor attracted person. So if you hear MAP, the acronym MAP, or no MAP, or NMAP, now you know what they're talking about. Pedophiles. In that community, there is a big distinction between the two. And their thought is, have pity on me. The pedophile is truly the victim. How could people be so abjectly cruel to others based on something they can't control? That's the MAP. And that's the rationale for being a MAP. A pedophile. Also, in the LGBT community, contrary to popular opinion, many of those in the LGBT don't want pedophiles associated with them. Recognize the inherent evil of pedophiles. At the same time, MAPs and no MAPs are attempting to purposely insinuate them into LGBT so that they are normed. They want to make you get to the point where it's not just a matter of acceptance or tolerance. It's a matter of you're a sexist if you're not an outright advocate. That's how all of this works. I'll leave you with this. Say his name. Canon Hinant. There is a media blackout right now on the execution of a 5-year-old kid who was riding his bicycle. And if you didn't hear about it, well, that's purposeful by the American media maggots, because it was a white 5-year-old child on a bicycle named Canon Hinant, executed in front of his father's house in North Carolina this past Sunday evening. A black man named Darius Sessoms walked up to the boy, put a gun to his head, and executed him. And then he fled to his home in the town of Wilson. Had the roles been reversed, this would have been trumpeted up and down, not just the nation, the rest of the planet. This would have been a hate crime of the first degree. But because it's a white little boy, no one cares. This is where we are in 2020. Say his name. Canon Hinant. Canon Hinant.
Monsieur has unlocked!
We'll meet again. Don't know when. Don't know.
November 3rd isn't about Republicans or Democrats. It's about destruction versus creativity. It is literally about people who love this country or people who want to destroy this country. It is about good versus evil. Don't stay home. Hand deliver your ballot for President Trump. Don't trust the mail. Hand it in. If we vote in present, excellent. Show up to vote. Get out of the damn house. But if we vote by mail-in ballot, don't put it in the damn mail. Hand it in to your registrar in your county, in your city, in person. Then get the name of the person you hand the ballot to. God bless America. Have a great weekend.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.